Welcome to the Midnight Gathering with Nancy Nightmare
and the Wizard.
Join us where the bizarre,
the mysterious, and the macabre meet.
And welcome to another episode.
Welcome, everyone.
Here we are in the frozen tundra of the Northeast.
Yes, loving it.
Loving it. Actually, I am loving it. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, we got a ton of snow today, right?
We did. I shoveled for the first time. Normally, I don't do the shoveling around here. I've been very lucky.
Yeah.
But I decided to do that, and it was not bad.
Yep. Yeah, if you're the kind of person who enjoys solitude, wintertime in New England is incredible. There's not a soul out on the streets.
Yeah, the dead. Everything's dead.
Yeah.
So no bird noises, no nature. It's all just dead.
Yeah.
And with that, welcome to the horror podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I had a hard time picking a t-shirt today. I usually pick one that's relevant to the movie, but I already wore the t-shirt for this movie a couple of episodes ago.
I see.
So I had to really stretch it. And what I did is I picked my Keeping Up with the Kardashians t-shirt. I'm very cool. I've had this for a long time. It's a reference to Star Trek, if you're not familiar. The Kardashians are of reptilian ancestry. Yeah, you were wondering why I was wearing this.
I was wondering.
And it's a play on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which I've actually never seen. Do you know I've never seen a full episode of that?
That makes two of us. I know who they are, of course.
Of course, we all do, yeah. But I've never seen an episode of it, so I actually can't really have an opinion about it.
Nope. But, I'm sure I can. It's just...
Well, we can all have opinions about absolutely everything, whether we know about it or not.
Yeah.
So...
and in fact, I think today's topic will touch a little bit on that.
All right. Let's get into it.
All right. Let's get into it. In this episode, we are diving into They Live, a film that's part sci-fi, part horror, and all biting social commentary. Directed by John Carpenter, this cult classic uses aliens, sunglasses, and subliminal messaging to explore themes of consumerism, class inequality, and media manipulation.
Yes. We'll discuss the plot, the unforgettable fight scene, and the film's deeper messages. Plus, we'll explore why They Live still feels as relevant today as it did in 1988, perhaps even more so. Are there more subliminal messages today than there were in 1988? We have more forms of media.
Well, let me ask you this. Who today is John Nada?
I can't answer that without being controversial. I don't know. Who's fighting the man right now?
Well, we recently rewatched the film and read some things online, and I kept pondering to myself, who in 2025 is John Nada? Who is that working poor person that's out there day in, day out trying to make money?
Dun, dun, dun. I always think of the music, the blues.
Right.
It's so funny. It's such a simple musical theme, but it fits the movie so well.
Yeah.
Every time I think of Roddy Piper in the movie with this flannel shirt, I think of that.
Which is quite funny because John Carpenter, I think he was saying that he normally will compose pieces of music to hide his fuck-ups. But not that throughout, because throughout the film, it was the music used for John Nada, but he did say that, referring to when he writes songs.
Interesting. I think I've been composing music my whole life to conceal my fuck-ups.
Yeah, I compose music because I am a fuck-up.
There you go. There you have it.
If not, I'd become a lawyer or a doctor.
Speaking of fuck-ups, can I talk about my makeup for a second? Now, just bear with me.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done this in life, but if you're trying not to eat too much cake or something and you take a little piece and you're like, that was good. And you start taking more and more and more. And pretty much you've taken half the cake. That's how it was with me trying to put on my makeup today. I drew a little cat eye and then it was uneven and I kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon it's overtaken my eyes. But the good news is I don't think you can see it in the light. But I'm not somebody who redoes my makeup.
You should have warned them first. I'm sure that some folks are on their New Year's resolution and are trying to get beach ready. So right now you might have already tipped them over the edge. Have those Cheetos.
Everybody's on the shot now.
What shot?
The Ozempic.
Oh, gotcha.
I think a lot of people are on the Ozempic. They're not even thinking about food. They're feeling nauseated probably.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure someone out there was just at that tipping point. It's eat those Doritos.
Hey, life is short, baby. We're souls wandering around in monkey meat sacks. Have the cake.
And some of us are lizards.
And some of us are lizards. And back to the movie. I love how you managed to do that. Here I am on a tangent. So just if I look crazy, it's whatever. I'm not a model, okay? We do the best we can.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I just thought it was funny because it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And I have no patience.
Right.
That's one of my key personality traits. I have no patience.
Yeah. Is that a characteristic of your kind from the planet you're from?
Oh, you think I'm not from here, huh? You picked up on that.
Maybe.
Well, I'm not a reptilian, I'll tell you that. But wouldn't a reptilian say that?
Or maybe they would, right? Hiding in plain sight.
Right. Well, that's the theory. I mean, you know what's interesting? What came first, the chicken or the egg? I really don't know.
Yeah.
But people like David Icke have this theory about reptilians being the elite. If you're not in conspiracy theories, just bear with me.
And if you're not, you definitely should.
You're missing out.
You could really go down a rabbit hole on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I go down rabbit holes all the time. Yeah. I live in rabbit holes. So there's this whole theory about the people who really run the world being this reptilian race that lives underground. Which, when you think about it, I mean, there were dinosaurs on this planet. It's not impossible that they evolved into a Cardassian-like race and are living underground. Why they would, well, they'd prefer it, maybe. I was going to say, if they're in charge, why are they living underground?
Well, I think the theory is that somehow the planet is being harvested by these beings, which might have very well been those quote-unquote drones that were flying over
what
the
are
Northeast.
They harvesting? I'm not familiar with that.
Who knows? I mean, it could be water. It could be plants. It could be Skittles.
Energy. It could be human energy.
Candy bars.
Loosh? Is that what they call it? I don't know.
I know E.T. was here to harvest Reese's Pieces.
Why do I even try? I don't know why I try.
All right.
This is the yin and the yang of the balance, though.
Oh, yeah.
That's the podcast. Yeah. I'm insane and you're crazy. So we've watched this movie quite a bit. This is, as you can imagine, one of our my favorite.
Yeah, and we're both huge John Carpenter fans as well. And
I grew up being a huge WWF, aka WWE fan.
Yeah. I did too.
So, and even as an adult, I was involved in wrestling. We won't go into that, but
Hot Rod was amazing.
Yeah, he was, Piper's Pit was just a bit before my time. Mm-hmm. I started watching it, I think, a little after his top years.
Right. Yeah. This was back in 1740. I think I was 17.
Right. We've been around for a really long time. This is a classic, but it's still relevant. And that's the thing that's crazy about good cinema is that, all these years later, you can still look at society and draw parallels between this and what's going on.
Yeah. And I feel let's go a little bit into it and then we'll
in case you haven't seen the movie, let us spoil the whole thing for you. So here's a film synopsis.
And for some people, there's going to be a lot of discrepancies because it's filtered through our eyes and it's our interpretation.
Oh, can you tell we're starting to get comments? Can you tell we're starting? Yeah, we know we don't know everything, people.
And that's the way we like it.
You think I'm going to study? I just told you I had no patience. I can't even put my eye makeup on straight.
You're the reason why society's collapsing. You see? Right there.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm not going to memorize shit. I'm just not going to do it. I do my best.
Yeah. I mean, I support professional sports. I eat junk food. And I pay my taxes. So, what else do I need to do?
You don't do any of those things.
I don't?
Oh, no. Oh. I take care of the taxes. You don't eat junk food.
Okay.
And you don't watch professional sports.
Sometimes, if the Lakers are in the playoffs.
All right. I'll give you that. So back to the film. Here, you can tell we're a little scattered today. It must be the snow.
Yeah. They Live follows Nada, Roddy Piper's character, a drifter who discovers a pair of sunglasses that reveal the truth. The world is secretly controlled by aliens.
Lizard people.
These extraterrestrial overlords use subliminal messages to keep humanity docile, plastering signs with commands like obey, consume, and marry and reproduce.
Well, it didn't work on me. With the help of his new ally, Frank, played by Keith David, who actually, this actor, Keith David, went to Juilliard.
Yeah. Julie who?
Juilliard.
Julie who?
Very famous acting school. So, I mean, he's a phenomenal actor in the film. But
And music school too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do I know? I don't know about music. Nada fights back against the aliens and their human collaborators, leading to a climactic showdown at a TV station broadcasting the aliens' signals. Now, here's a question. Who was worse, the human collaborators or the reptilians? Who do you think morally is worse?
What do you guys think?
Okay, well, they don't talk back.
Okay.
This is a one-way format,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, comment below who you think is worse. Going back to your question.
Wow, this is I
It's
can
a tough
tell
one.
you
Well,
what
you tell me. You tell me what you think. I'd love to
I
hear.
think the human collaborators are worse because the reptilians are just being who they are. They're expanding. They're trying to advance their race, whereas the human collaborators are betraying their own kind.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see it from their perspective too, that they are accepting the fact that this reptilian species is here.
Right.
They're running everything. Clearly, they don't want society to collapse. They want it to keep going, and they want people to make money, but they want people to basically bow down to them. Mm-hmm. So they just want to get on the winning team. But I would say morally, I would think the collaborators are probably worse.
I would say so. I think that's why I thought a lot about that question about who John Nada is today, because it doesn't seem like, it seems like everybody is kind of like trying to figure out their own stuff. And sometimes, and I mean, some of us are pointing fingers at certain individuals in society, but yet, like we shop at Amazon, we use social media platforms. And so,
I mean, here's something controversial. Like, how about that guy, Luigi, who assassinated the CEO of the insurance company?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. One person's hero is another person's villain.
Right.
And so I guess that goes back to my question about who morally would you say is worse? Is there one that's worse? It all really depends on perspective. From the reptilians' perspective in this movie, Nada and his freedom fighters are the problem.
Right.
So it's just interesting. You can really see these things from all sides. Now, if we go to the real life case of... I don't remember his last name, but that kid Luigi who shot the CEO, well, he has a family.
Right.
I mean, there's all sorts of perspectives to look at things, and you can say, well, murder's always wrong.
Right.
But if you're defending your homeland, is murder wrong? There's just so many. If you're defending yourself against somebody, is killing someone wrong?
Right. I mean, right now we're filming this on January 9th. And right now, Southern California is faced with a historical fire. And obviously, it's incredibly devastating to everybody involved, regardless of where you are on the social ladder. Yet, there are people out there who don't seem to care that...
Oh, it's bad.
That certain wealthy people have lost everything.
Well, it's going beyond that. I'm noticing like on TikTok and stuff, and I should stay the hell off of social media sometimes, but they're saying it's burning because people in Hollywood are evil. I mean, it's like, I think that a lot of people would start witch hunts if they could.
Right.
And to see how casually insane people are.
Right.
And how they're lacking compassion, empathy, and logic.
Right.
For me has actually been a little shocking to see. Now, hey, you hate rich people, that's fine. I can understand the 1% issue in this country and the class disparity. But when you start taking joy in somebody else's suffering, I mean, to me, that's the true definition of evil.
Right.
So,
yeah. So that's why and because I also was curious to see what John Carpenter's thoughts were regarding the film. So spent a little time watching interviews with him, and, he was a byproduct of the 1960s. So a lot of his worldview was shaped being anti-establishment, because at that time, the people who were on the fringe of society were badly treated. And, there were
I think people on the fringe of society are still badly treated.
Right. But it was like I don't know, maybe it was more
yeah.
apparent, racism was more blatant at that time. And so he had this kind of a screw you ethos. He was sticking it to the man, right?
It was there was Reagan era that he was sticking it to. He said that specifically.
Right, the Reagan era. And I believe that was the first time on a cultural level you had a group of people who were characterized as yuppies, right? They were like young college graduates who were, mid-level employees at Fortune 500 companies.
Let the cocaine flow.
Yeah, and so back then, not everybody had a college degree. So if you had one, you can potentially find yourself in a very lucrative situation. Obviously, that's not the case. Now you're saddled with tons of debt because, everybody's being encouraged to go to school and people...
And still not everybody has a college degree.
Right. But for the most part, now it's now you need higher degrees to get some of those jobs you were back then able to get with just a college degree.
Right.
But anyway, there was this new class of American who was making, shit tons of money quicker than they can spend it, and they were very young. And
I can only think of American Psycho.
Right, because that's another good example of what the 1980s yuppie was.
Right.
But I feel like the lines in 2025 are so blurred because
the 1%. I sound like Bernie. You'll have to forgive me.
The 1%.
Love Bernie, but
we have to stop these super PACs.
God bless them, though. They spew. Listen to me. Just the classism I'm exhibiting right now. But they say the right things. The 1% will say the right things, but they'll still participate in the exploitation of labor. And they still, I mean, I'm not going to go into details on it, but they're harder to tell. They're hiding in plain sight, much like the reptilians in this movie.
Yep.
When you think about it, maybe back in the Reagan era, they were easier to spot because,
right.
They had a certain look but now the lines have been blurred and people can present themselves on social media as one thing.
Right.
And you don't know where they have their investments. You don't know what they're supporting.
Right.
You don't know who they actually are, but you think you do because you have a parasocial relationship with them.
Right.
Or us. I swear, though, not me. I'm a woman of the people.
Not a lizard person.
Oh, if I was a lizard person, that would be, first of all, I am cold quite frequently. So I could see.
Yeah.
What if you don't know you're a lizard person? Right. What if I'm part lizard?
Now, I also want to mention that Carpenter didn't say that these were actual lizard people. We're just basing this off of other conspiracy theories.
That's right. I'm conflating things. That's true that he did not. They were just aliens.
Right.
And they didn't look like lizards.
Right.
I don't know, because I got all excited with my Cardassian. It's true. It's like I forget. I just kind of go on my own tangent, which is why we're not. There's a lot of detailed channels on YouTube about horror, and if you want deep facts about that, you can go to them.
Right. But if you want the hard-hitting news, you're coming here.
Couple of jackasses.
100% accurate. We won't lie to you.
The thing is, I really can see a lot of issues from different sides, so it's hard for me to have. Even about movies, it's hard for me to say this movie sucks or this movie's phenomenal, because to me, this movie's phenomenal. For someone else, they might not like it. It might not resonate with them because it's art, people. I see a lot of definitive statements in comments, especially on YouTube, where this sucks. It's like, well, that's just your opinion, man.
It's crazy though. I mean, speaking on the topic of art, for instance, I feel like John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China is an amazing movie. I don't even know if somebody can conceptualize something like that in 2025. Well, that wouldn't be made
today.
Right. But it's the most creative thing I have ever seen in my life, and it's fun too.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, he said that basically he was influenced by Western movies, so all his films are Westerns. So when you watch his movie, think of Western movies.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know he said that.
Yeah, even the fight scene was influenced by a John Wayne film that apparently at that time had a very long fight sequence. But essentially, Carpenter was inspired by Western films, but because they had fallen out of fashion, he kind of fell into the sci-fi horror genre.
And that just brings me to, how could you have Roddy Piper in a movie and not have extended fight scenes? You know? And the cool thing is, Roddy Piper, he came up with a lot of his own lines. The infamous, chew bubblegum line.
What is it?
Oh, for fuck's sake, I knew you were going to say that. You love to put me on the spot.
Yeah.
God damn it. And my brain goes blank the second you do that.
I came to here,
kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah.
Did I say it right, though? I probably missed a word.
No.
I probably did.
No,
and I'm going to hear about it in the comments, which is fine. Go ahead.
Did not ever say what kind of bubblegum you like to chew?
I always imagined it was like Bubblicious.
Bubblicious.
Yeah, but my other favorite lines, which I was trying to get to, which I did write down in preparation for this, because I do some preparation for this. Brother, life's a bitch, and she's back in heat.
That one's fantastic.
I fucking love it.
I'm surprised that people don't bring that one up. I guess maybe for certain reasons.
Well, I could say it.
You could say it. I can't say it.
I've got news for him. There's going to be hell to pay, because I ain't daddy's little boy no more.
I feel like this movie, if you just don't actively really think too deeply about the world around you, it could you could assign characters to members of society, and then the line, the cheese in terms of the lines that are being said are just fantastic.
You could just take this movie at face value as a sci-fi
horror movie
and just an action movie, and just enjoy it that way too.
Right.
Which is why it's so great. The other notes I made is that Roddy sounds really Canadian in this. I never noticed it before, but his Canadian accent really shines in this movie.
Yeah.
And I love it. And this is very interesting, being that it's 2025 now. They predicted that by 2025, the Earth would be under complete control of the aliens.
Which is really, really strange, given some of the things that have been happening around us in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the drones. I refuse to call them drones. Unidentified flying objects, many of them.
Yeah, and the fires in Southern California as well, which...
Well, I mean, I don't know. Fires in a dry area with high winds.
Right.
I love conspiracy theories, but for me, I'm having a hard time.
Well, but I mean, if you would assume that these aliens are taking over certain members of society, and it's going to be folks who have great influence on the planet, some would say that they're hiding in Hollywood.
Yeah. Do they have great influence, though? Look at the last election.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have great influence anymore. I think a lot of people, maybe it worked against a certain candidate that they were supporting them. I think there's a lot of resentment towards Hollywood right now. We would just like to say that Hollywood has never embraced us. So if you're watching us and you resent Hollywood, you're totally safe, because nobody likes us there anyway. They didn't want us. So we're underground.
That's not true.
I'm just kidding. No, we lived in Hollywood, actually in Hollywood proper for many years, and love it there, and have a lot of very dear friends there, some that have been evacuated. So we've been really thinking about them. I haven't, probably a result of the baddiness and the crooked makeup, I haven't been sleeping much. I've been pretty much constantly on the app looking at the fire areas and seeing where our loved ones are. Yeah. And hoping they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They Live is a scathing critique of the 1980s America, where greed and materialism reigned supreme. The aliens represent the wealthy elite, exploiting humanity while hiding in plain sight. The subliminal messages reflect how media and advertising manipulate us into compliance.
Did your voice just crack?
I don't know.
I think it did. I've never heard that before. If you're going to put me on the spot, I'm going to put you on the spot, buddy.
Yeah.
The film's central metaphor, the sunglasses, as a tool to see reality. ties into the idea of awakening. It's a call to question authority and examine the structures of power that control our lives.
Nada's journey from homeless drifter to revolutionary hero highlights the growing divide between the working class and the wealthy. Carpenter wanted the film to resonate with those feeling left behind by the system. So yeah, these are some really interesting points that he makes throughout the film. I also want to mention that if you haven't seen this movie, the folks who are living in the encampment are actually homeless folks at that time, and Carpenter wanted to use folks that were on Skid Row so they could, A, get warm meals, and 2, get paid for their time. So hopefully give a little relief to them. So that I thought that was a really great thing and cool thing of him to do.
Absolutely. He seems like a really good-hearted individual. I know that there have been some reports of him being a little curmudgeonly. Mm-hmm. There've probably been some reports of me being a little curmudgeonly in life.
It's probably like, hey, if you spend that much time in Hollywood.
That would be exhausting. That whole industry, especially at its height,
right,
must have been exhausting with people telling you what to do and how to create your art.
Right.
But he does seem like a very caring individual who thinks very deeply about things. Sometimes I think that can lead to a lot of resentment and anger and depression, because when you think about things too deeply, it can be painful.
Right. And I think too, because of the nature of the work, right? Because it obviously everybody's got a job to do. But there's also the creative aspect of what it is that he does. I mean, he literally created the slasher genre, with Halloween. And a lot of his movies were like very influential in that time period. So like if you were to name some directors, he's certainly going to be at the top of the list of people who was very influential at that time.
Right.
And then to create things after putting so many weeks in and weeks out of trying to get it done, you're fighting internal issues, you're dealing with financial issues and scheduling and timeframes and all of that. I'm sure that can make you pretty salty from time to time.
Well, and he also wrote this. So when you write something, you have skin in the game. He wasn't just the director,
Right.
So, it's personal for him.
Yeah, and he had a small budget for this film. I can't remember exactly what the amount was, but the film in terms of the visuals isn't breaking a whole lot of new ground, but in terms of the creativity and the storyline, it's top notch.
It had a modest budget of $3 million and grossed $13 million at the box office.
Yeah. Here's what's really spooky. So for 2 weeks, this film was number 1 at the box office in 1988 upon its release. And then it just, poof, disappeared.
Do you think the lizard people shut it down?
I don't know.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was released on November 4th, 1988, during the tail end of the Reagan-era America. When did Reagan-era America end?
81 to 88.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember Reagan, so that makes sense. The film... Oh, this is an interesting fact, too. The film is based on the 1963 short story 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson, which shares its themes of waking up to a hidden reality. In that story, they were hypnotized.
Yeah.
But this is very clever. The way he decided to use the sunglasses was so clever.
Yeah. Well, also, like wearing sunglasses at that time was kind of like indicative of the period.
You're a cool guy.
Yeah, like you wore them all the time.
Nada was a cool guy.
Yeah.
And there's some iconic scenes in this movie. The main one I think that everyone thinks about is the fight scene. Nada and Frank's 6-minute alley brawl is both brutal and hilarious. It's a fight over a pair of sunglasses, but it symbolizes the resistance to seeing the truth. Carpenter said he wanted the scene to be realistic, with both characters exhausted by the end.
The first time Nada puts on the sunglasses is one of the film's most memorable moments. The black and white alien vision reveals the hidden messages in advertisement and the skeletal faces of the aliens. It's chilling and brilliant in its simplicity. So,
isn't it true, though, that as humans, we really don't like looking at the truth?
Right. And there's always a boogeyman.
And what is the interpretation of the truth? Now, I could sit here and say, oh, people don't like looking at the truth. Well, maybe what I think is the truth is bullshit,
Right.
I swear we don't take acid. I know it might seem like it, but I have never taken it in my whole life.
I think the truth is determined by who has the most influence. That will decide what the truth is.
Well, oh God, are we going to get into, is there an objective truth?
Right?
I don't think we can go there.
Well, I know that in modern advertising, because it does talk about subliminal messages in advertising, the best type of advertisement, you don't know that you're being advertised to.
Oh,
right?
it's social media. That's why I think this movie's even more relevant today, because look at social media. I mean, we're basically being brainwashed by major corporations to spend money constantly to consume.
Yeah, but don't stop doing that.
Oh, no, if it's our stuff, it's good. Like I said, we're anti-establishment.
Yes.
But no, but think about it. If you're on the TikTok shop, you can now buy things right in the app.
Right.
You know, we're being encouraged to consume all the time. There's billionaires who literally want us to live in space stations and then shoot merchandise to us because we've trashed the planet. Mm-hmm. You know?
Space trash.
Space. I could see myself being a space trash.
Aliens are like, oh shit, I hope they can't develop any capabilities to come out of like
That's
their
what
planet.
they think of us as. We're space trash.
Like, oh God, here they come.
Oh boy, here come the people from Earth. Oh boy. They're the ones who created professional wrestling. You know the aliens would love professional wrestling. It's a spectacle. They're modern gladiators.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of wrestling and modern gladiators, John Carpenter mentioned, or Roddy had mentioned, that their first meeting was after WrestleMania 3.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because Carpenter was a big fan of wrestling. And
smart man.
Yeah. And at the time, it also happened that Roddy was kind of thinking he wanted to do other things besides wrestling, and Vince McMahon had offered him a role in a movie after Carpenter had offered him They Live for like the same amount of money, and Roddy just thought to himself, I don't really trust this guy to make the best possible movie, and he was right, because They Live is a cult classic, and I think it did moderately well.
What was the name of the movie that Hulk Hogan was in? Was it No Holds Barred? I went to the movie theater to see it, but I was really little. It was a WWF produced film.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the movie.
Man, I'm going to have to think about it. But I will say, I loved it as a kid because I liked anything that had wrestlers in it. But Roddy might have been correct in that at the time.
Yeah.
That they did not have the most filmmaking knowledge.
Yeah, and what was fantastic is that Roddy, not only was he a very charismatic person, had tons of experience because of what he was doing, which I think at that time he was considered like one of the top wrestlers.
Oh yeah, he was a top
game.
guy for sure. Top heel.
Yeah, he had his own show, like side show on the WWE Piper's Pit.
Yeah.
But to Carpenter, there was a very like grounded, down to earth look to him that he liked. You know.
Oh well, now we're gonna get my trademark commentary. You can't get anywhere else. Best mullet in the biz.
Oh, yeah.
That was a gorgeous mullet that Roddy Piper had in 1988. I think one of the finest examples of frosted tips, meaning, you know, he had highlights, and a mullet.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, he had a great mullet.
He was a good-looking man.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
I mean, maybe you're kidding. It's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, strong guy, fights for what he believes in.
Yeah.
Good talker.
Yeah. And then what was neat was that he also had wrestling moves in the infamous fight scene with Keith David.
Yeah, and they really worked on that scene. They choreographed it. And I think it was very smart of John Carpenter to get an actual fighter if he wanted to put a brawl in the movie.
Right.
Because I don't think that they used a lot of stunt doubles in that particular scene, because it seemed like a pretty continuous scene, and there were a lot of shots of their faces.
Yeah. I believe John Armada, who was the stunt coordinator, who also played all of the aliens in the movie as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, he played all of them, like every single one you see in the movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, They Live has become a cultural touchstone, inspiring memes, protests, and political commentary. Its themes of manipulation and control feel even more relevant in today's world of social media, targeted ads, and corporate influence.
The phrase "obey" has been reappropriated by artists like Shepard Fairey, whose Obey Giant campaign brought the film's message to a new generation.
Carpenter himself has said that They Live was intended as a warning, not just about Reaganomics, but about any system that prioritizes profit over people. Yeah. So speaking of systems prioritizing profit over people, I just saw an article that a lot of people had their fire insurance canceled by State Farm in April, and now they're dealing with these fires in January. So,
yeah, it's a very complex web that we all live in because, I mean, I don't know what it's like, to be at the top.
No, I don't know what it's like to make those decisions for shareholders.
But even so, like, can you be completely autonomous from everybody? And we're all on the same planet anyway. So to a degree, they have to rely on other people to do what's right for the best of our species.
Well, and these corporations just can't let their shares tank.
Right.
So, and a lot of us have money in the stock market, whether it's a 401k, elderly people living off of their investments that they've put money into. I mean, if the system collapses, great. Now what? What do we do next?
Right.
Can we trust our fellow man in a farm-based system to share and be a part of the community?
Right.
So that's why we've never seen a perfect political system, is because humans are imperfect. Monkeys.
Yeah. And if the pendulum swings too hard in either direction, like in terms of, you become intoxicated with making boatloads of money, it could lead to depressions, right? Like a lot of that greed we saw during the housing crisis in the late 2000s,
Well, it's interesting. I watched this documentary on Netflix the other day about the Jerry Springer show.
Yeah.
And the producers were just heartless about getting ratings. They would exploit anyone, no moral compass whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it took its toll on one of them. He was just kind of a broken man by the end of it. So there's always a price to pay if you're a thinking, feeling person. If you're a sociopath, there might not be a price to pay because you don't care about your fellow man.
Yeah.
So maybe the world is just run by psychopaths and sociopaths.
Yeah. I mean, and there's got to be people out there who also see it as a game, right? So to them, every day you go out there, and I think Keith David says that in that one quote about life being a race, and everybody's like trying to outdo you while you're trying to figure out how to navigate this very complex situation.
And I didn't blame his character for not wanting to put the glasses on. He had a job, he had a family, and I think a lot of us feel that way. We're just keeping our heads above water.
Yeah.
I don't really want to know
so
anymore.
I mean, it could be seen this way. I mean, maybe Nada did bring misery to this poor guy, right? Because now he's got him on this crusade, and now, and he ends up dying. So like now his wife and kids don't have a dad.
Right, Frank.
Nada didn't have Nada to lose.
Well, Nada lost because he died. He did die in the most American death scene I've ever seen.
80s too.
80s, true 80s fashion at the end of the movie. He died giving the middle finger to the man.
Yeah.
And we get the only boobs. Now, let's make it a little lighter, a little levity in our review, if you will. I love, as you know, to yell 80s boobs every time there's a set of nude 80s boobs on. Because I can get away with that because I have boobs, okay? I can get away with that, and don't come for me. I like it. It's how I enjoy movies.
Yeah.
And so the last scene, you get a pair of boobs.
Yeah. I think that was Carpenter's way of kind of like lightening it up.
Have a good day after this anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he was saying about like happy endings or sad endings. He said
Sorry.
Happy. This one surprisingly has a happy one because Nada is...
I don't think that's a happy ending.
Well, no, but I mean, he accomplishes what he sets out to do despite
Holly
being killed.
Was a collaborator.
Yeah.
Nada died, although Nada's never named in the movie. They don't give you his name, but his name is Nada.
Nada.
And it's not a real happy ending, but he accomplished exposing them.
Yep.
So that was his goal.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. I mean,
now what?
Yeah, now what?
That's the problem, and that's what I was saying about political systems. You expose the people in power, you show that the evil that men do, and you're left with a power vacuum. people have to step up. People have to become involved at that point. And worse than that, we have to agree on a system.
Well, David Icke did say that some of the reptilians are actual good guys, but there's a few rogue bad ones.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
I haven't dug too deeply.
Which then led the person to say, hey, I think David Icke is an alien.
Controlled opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this into a conspiracy podcast, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, why not? Let's roll with it.
Do you really? I don't think anybody wants that. I don't want to I don't want to put the sunglasses on too much.
Yeah.
Well,
I also thought it was just kind of like rather ironic too that Shepard Fairey then took this idea and then made money from it, right?
I also, yes, he made incredible art from it. I also want to point out that we're doing this in honor of John Carpenter's birthday.
Yes.
So we're, big Carpenter fans. Go figure. Who isn't? But just in honor of his legacy and his films, and this being one of, in my opinion, the best ones.
Yeah.
Although I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan too, and I love Big Trouble in Little China.
That's so funny. I wonder of all his films, which one is like his love letters? I feel like this is his love letter to the universe,
society. I don't know.
This is like how I feel.
I mean, it makes sense. But I also want to point out that Carpenter scored the film's music himself, creating a minimalist soundtrack that adds to the film's tension and paranoia. And just that use of that theme over and over again. He's really great about that. He creates some really simple, iconic themes.
Yeah, like Halloween too.
Oh.
I mean, which is funny because Mike Myers moves terribly, terribly slow, but somehow with the music, it really works.
Yeah, Michael Myers, yeah. All right, well, I don't know what else to say. I'm always hesitant to talk too much about my opinions on anything because really I'm a seeker and I'm somebody who sees multiple angles of most things. There's some things I don't, but the consuming, I love to consume. I'm a consumer. Who doesn't love a little consumption?
Well, I think that's why I'm having a tough time with it because it's so gray.
It is very gray.
It's so gray because
maybe just give in to the aliens and like go to their gala underground.
Yeah.
Get the pretty dress. Right?
Right.
Maybe I'm dumb. I've been doing this all wrong. So if you're listening, lizard people, I just want you to know that I could be persuaded.
Yep.
Name my price.
Yeah. This was the idea of like hidden aliens was quite popular because before They Live, there was a TV series called V at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where the reptilians came down.
I do wonder how many conspiracy theories have actually come from these movies and series.
Yep.
And not vice versa.
Right.
Because a lot of them are very similar.
Yes.
So, who knows what's true in the world?
Well, right. I mean, that's part of the dance, right?
That's the beauty of life, I guess.
Yeah.
We're just, like I said, these souls in these monkey meat sacks, wandering around, talking about movies.
Yeah.
Putting makeup on our little meat faces.
To cover our alien disguise.
This is why I'm not going to get a reality show on E. This is it. Right here. You're witnessing it. Oh, anti-consumption. Just a meat sack. So this is why I didn't want anyone to know who I was for so many years. Just put a pretty picture up on Instagram and shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no.
Use coupon code.
Oh, I should start doing that.
No, I mean I'm torn, right? Like I'm not saying that. Yeah, we're sticking it to the man. I mean I don't know. Like I think it's pretty.
Who is the man? I don't even know who the man is anymore.
Right. I mean,
I know he's got his foot on my neck though. I can feel it.
He constantly sends me emails. Hey, check out these new deals.
Well, I'm on a thing for the new year. I'm on a no buy.
Yep.
But for January, I'm on a no buy because I buy too much shit.
Right.
I just buy too many. Do I need another pair of sweatpants? I know I'm very glamorous. That's been my recent purchases.
Yeah, you're like, no.
I do. I need some. Yeah, it's a $6 coffee here, $7 coffee there.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
So with that, I hope we all learned something.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, They Live isn't just a sci-fi film. It's a call to action. Its message about questioning authority and recognizing manipulation is as vital today as it was in 1988. So,
Yeah. It is important to question everything and assume you're being manipulated, I believe.
all right. Well, it depends on how that's defined, right? Because if you're trying to persuade someone, that this particular idea that you've got is a good one, and that they should, at the very least, be open to checking it out and see what you have to offer. I mean, are you manipulating the other person? I mean, to a degree you are, right? Because you're trying to pull on their strings. You're trying to figure out how the best way to get them to, at the very least, be open to checking something out.
Well, I don't use manipulation as a negative word necessarily, even though it is, but just assume that somebody has some sort of agenda,
right,
when they're trying to tell you something.
Yeah, and I also would be curious, like when people go out and shop, right? Like, have you ever had an experience where you left, you're like, oh my God, this was like the worst thing ever? Probably not.
I sometimes get really overstimulated and grossed out in stores. I look around and it starts to close in on me, all the stuff that just looks cheap, and I start to wonder who made it, and was this child slave labor that made this plastic piece of crap? Those Stanley cups that everybody was buying for a while. I saw TikToks of people that had like 50, 100 of them in all different colors, and it causes disgust when you think about it. And where does this stuff come from? We're taking all these natural resources from the planet, and we take and we take and we take. And at what point does the levee break?
I guess until the wheels fall off.
Ride this motherfucker till the wheels fall off. That's what I'm going to do.
No, I don't know.
But that is the human experience, What a positive and uplifting episode this was.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get away from it because it's like the focal point of Carpenter's They Live, right? I mean,
yeah, we did kind of say, oh, we're not going to get too heavy in this episode. And then look what I did. Yeah. Look what we did.
Like, what are we going to discuss? Like camera angles, lighting. We're going to
kill count for this. Like, this isn't even like a slasher. So it's like,
right.
This is Carpenter's vision for the film. He wants to start these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you sat with him, I'm pretty sure it'd be like fuck yes, this is exactly what I want to say. Yeah,
it's supposed to make people think.
Yeah.
And even whether he agrees with anything we said, like at least we're thinking about it and we're having these talks. And it's important to be awake. Put the sunglasses on. When you're online and somebody wants you to buy the 50th piece of plastic crap today, think about where you're going to put it. Is it actually going to add value to your life? Mm-hmm. Where did it come from? Where did the resources for it come from? Where's the plastic going after you're done with it?
Right.
Consume. Unless Nancy Nightmare and the Wizard come out with their own brand of plastic crap. In which case,
and now we will highly encourage buy our crap.
Consume. Obey. That's the trick of capitalism, though. We want to make some money.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to make a little money.
Yep.
I've never promoted any product I've never been asked, but I would have a very hard time with that unless it was something I really liked.
Right.
And even then I would wonder, am I contributing to the society's problems or am I helping?
Right. That's a hard one to answer. I don't know.
Right. I don't know either.
Right. We're not all perfect. Please.
Oh, please.
Even people who are out there like championing all kinds of causes are not perfect.
Well, I mean, I'm out there championing. I know we do our best as human beings. But our very existence is causing damage to the planet to some extent.
Right. Right.
And then that's why there's billionaires who want to make space stations and shoot us up there.
Well, that's another thing too, right? Because some of those folks who've got deeper pockets are the ones who make like real shit happen, right? So to get money for a film like this is going to take a lot of cash.
I will just say right now that who I'm talking about is Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin, his space company.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, maybe he knows us better than we do. This is a terrible thing to say, but I've thought about it. Maybe he knows our consumption patterns so well, and he knows that it just exponentially grows every year, that he realizes there has to be a big solution. And that's why he's talking space stations.
Right. But I'm even thinking just like the cool things that we all kind of take for granted, like somebody's going to have to make the money to create these, places and spaces for us to, get together and have a big event, whatever that may be. Sporting events. I mean, there's a lot of money involved, and it's a much more complex situation than just, it's just being black and white. You know what
absolutely. I mean? I always say the Kellogg Corporation paid for my college education.
Right.
I got a full scholarship to music school from the Kellogg Corporation. So corporations can do good. They're not, they don't have to be evil.
Right.
But then I'm sure that corporations done other things that I would disagree with.
Right.
So it ain't a lot of gray area in the world. I don't want to put the glasses on. I don't need more sunglasses. I already have like 10, 12 pair. Right. And by the way, lest you think I'm too high on my high horse, I'm a doll collector. I have a whole collection of plastic.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, we like to collect Blu-rays of our favorite films as well. We do. I collect media, old 1940s comic books, various occult books.
My clothing collection.
Yeah. There's something about physically having them that's very magical, and I can't imagine it like being a substitute for like, something like a Kindle. Well,
I love my Kindle too. Yeah. I also hoard digital media.
Yeah. All right.
I hoard everything. Consume. And with that, we hope you'll meet us again at the Midnight Gathering. Until next time, stay spooky.